Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. For today, I wanted to share a basic well-being/self-care technique that I learned during a counselling session in the hope that it could possibly help some of you who are struggling mentally at this time. Now, as previously mentioned, this technique is basic and easy to complete. However, it is brilliant at laying down the foundations of being able to understand emotions and how you can begin to allow a slightly more positive mindset during difficult times. I have used this method myself in the early days of my counselling/cognitive behavioural therapy journey. I need to share with you before I begin that I am not a professional therapist in any way, shape or form. And if you feel like you are struggling, then please seek out help from professionals. Also, this technique may not help everyone, as we are, of course, all different. So to begin, I would like you to take a moment to either write down or draw out your current feelings and ask yourself why you think you feel this way. What has happened, if anything, that has made you feel this specific way? And this is especially important to do this if you feel like you aren't doing so well right now. It's also worth mentioning right now that it's okay to have bad days, and it's okay to struggle sometimes. Be forgiving to yourself when you feel this way, as it's nothing to be ashamed of. After you've completed this, I'd like you now to grab a piece of paper and a writing utensil like a pen or pencil and draw a line down the centre of the paper so that the paper is split into two sections. On one side, write positives, and on the other side, write negatives. I would like you to take this time to think of all of the negatives in your life first, before you write down any positives. What you write down as a negative could be absolutely anything you feel is impacting your life in a bad way. When you think you're finished writing the negatives down, I want you to then move on to the positives section on your piece of paper. Do the same process again, but this time for the positives in your life. Write all of the positives in your life that you can think of. The positives you write down can be as simple and basic as just having a roof over your head, being in good physical health, or having your family and friends by your side. When you are finished doing both of these things, take a moment and look only at the positive half of your list whilst beginning to focus purely on your breathing. Take slow and deep breaths. Concentrate on all of the positives in your life. The things that make you happy. The things that make you feel safe and at home. When you are content and you begin to feel more relaxed doing this, you can then move on to the next step in this exercise. Next, I'd like you to relax your mind by going into a meditative-like state of mind. I would recommend the Headspace app for this. I personally use the Headspace app all of the time, every single day. Or there's also many meditation videos here on YouTube to use. If you can, try and meditate for at least 5 minutes. However, please meditate for however long you feel comfortable with. And join me after you have finished meditating. Now, after you have meditated, we will move on to the final part of this simple self-care method, which is to reflect. This part of the process is very important, so please take time to do this section of the well-being task. Ask yourself the following questions. The first one being, when you look back at your list, are there more positives in your life rather than negatives? Or more negatives than positives? When looking at the negatives on your list, how many of them are you actually in control of? How many of these negatives can you change into positives? The goal of asking yourself these two questions in particular is that it begins to make you understand that if you have no control over a certain situation and cannot change it to make it better, then there is little point in worrying about it. On the other hand, it's also good to get into the mindset of thinking that if you can control a situation by turning a negative into a positive, then you can begin to take the steps necessary to make that happen. Ask yourself what you have learned from taking part in this today. The answer to this question could be as simple as, I've learned that it's better to concentrate on the positives instead of the negatives. How do you feel now compared to at the start of this task? You could simply be feeling more relaxed, for example. What you then do with the sheet of paper is completely up to you. Sometimes I personally like to keep it in order to look back on it for future reference. Sometimes I rip the negative side of the list up and throw it away, signaling that I shouldn't allow the negatives to control my life. Sometimes I enjoy continuing to look at the positives for a little while longer. And other times, I then continue this well-being task and extend it. I turn to writing my feelings down in the form of a poem, a story, or a diary in great depth. And that is the end to this short wellness task. You can do this as frequently as you feel you need to. What I like so much about this particular exercise is that it is flexible, and it can be adapted depending on what way you prefer to do it. You can also combine this method with other well-being methods too, if you wish to. Although it's not the most in-depth way to think about your mental health, it's good for understanding your emotions, understanding what sets off certain emotions, and it's the start of trying to let go of some of those negative thoughts and feelings. I'd now like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for watching and for taking part in this technique. If you found it useful, leave it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please consider clicking on that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.